Have you ever wondered how the fallen leave a battlefield once they've become a corpse? If you guessed decomposition, you're correct. But according to the Dungeons and Dragons dev team, this was a pressing question that had no solution. So they decided to create one. Welcome to the Deck of Many Toy Boxes, and react in horror as we discuss how to run a Cadaver Collector. Before I provide subpar commentary on the monster's behavior, inaccurate representations of its lore, and jokes that are sure to make you wince in pain, we must first cover the stat block. The Cadaver Collector is a large construct with lawful evil tendencies. Understandable when your job description includes impaling the bodies of the dead on your back spines. The construct has 189 hit points and moves around at a normal speed of 30 feet. For base stats, it has a 26 in strength, a 10 in dexterity, a 20 in constitution, a 5 for intelligence, an 11 for wisdom, and an 8 for charisma. Pretty okay stats as far as a construct is concerned. To go along with those base stats, it has practically every immunity under the sun, being outright immune to necrotic, poison, and psychic damage of any kind, and immune to non-magical piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage. Okay, so it isn't quite on Golem levels of immunities, but that is still a pretty sweet lineup, especially combined with its immunities to the charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned conditions. The construct also has dark vision, out to 60 feet, and a passive perception of 10. Last but not least, the Collector can understand all languages, but cannot speak. And just so we know, in the case of any homebrewing-related changes one wants to make to this creature, it has a proficiency bonus of +5. Now, for the abilities and actions the Cadaver Collector has, magic resistance, as though it wasn't already tanky enough, and an ability unique to only the Cadaver Collector that it can use once per rest. The Cadaver Collector can summon 1d6 specters without sunlight sensitivity to aid it in battle. I won't cover the Spectre stat block, considering it's a CR 1/4 creature, and that would make this video entirely too long. But just keep in mind as a DM that the Cadaver Collector represents 1d6 plus 1 creatures in battle, and 1d6 of those creatures are undead ghosts with the ability to outright kill players with their death touch. Very, very dangerous and very, very scary. As for battlefield actions the Cadaver Collector itself can take, it has a slam attack, which it can use twice if it only uses its slam attacks, and it also can breathe a paralyzing breath. That's right, this thing breathes box jellyfish in a 30-foot cone. The slam attacks have +10 to hit and deal 18 bludgeoning damage and 16 necrotic damage. The paralysis breath does no damage, but affected creatures make a DC 18 constitution save and become paralyzed for 1 minute on a failed save, being able to repeat saves on their turns. Just make sure the wizard isn't the first target, or is the first target, depending on how evil you want to be. Now with that formality out of the way, on to dry puns. I mean, on to the behavior and encounter. The Cadaver Collector is a construct summoned from the plane of Acheron to act as a sort of living siege engine for evil warlords. Those most often being necromancers who want the bodies it collects for experiments, and hobgoblins, since their god Maglubiet lives in Acheron and gives them pretty easy access to collectors. This does not restrict the Collector to huge-scale battles, however, as, if the summoner dies, the Collector just kind of wanders around, picking up dead bodies and looking around for ways to get home. The most defining feature of the Collector are the huge spikes on its back that it uses to stick corpses to itself in order to collect them, hence the name. These corpses act as sort of specter generators, as they are the origin of the specters conjured by the Cadaver Collector. I would physically describe to my players the number of corpses on the Collector, and then have the Collector summon a number of specters to protect itself accordingly. If you describe your Collector as having no corpses, it probably shouldn't be summoning specters. Other than collecting corpses and killing creatures in order to make corpses for it to collect, the Collector doesn't do much. It doesn't even eat, sleep, or drink, as it's a construct, meaning it has no sense of killing for food or hunting. It simply lives only to stack bodies and to get home. Now, time to the murder hobo section, the encounter. I would have the player stumble upon some ancient battlefield, or even a recent one if it makes sense for your story. Have the players wander around for a time before one of them realizes they are being stalked by a hulking creature. As soon as the party notices, have the collector lunge forward and attack. Make sure you describe the sickening, horrifying appearance of this not gargantuan, of this large monstrosity with tons of corpses stacked around its body spikes. All the collector would try and do is just smash and rip the party apart in order to kind of produce more bodies for it to collect. I would have it hold off on summoning specters unless it becomes threatened, like if it reaches half HP or something, since the collector on the plane of Acheron would have regularly encountered large hordes of enemies. It probably wouldn't be super fazed by 5 medium-sized adventurers. And as long as you balance the encounter to fit your party and what kind of damage they're throwing around, if they throw around lots of physical damage and don't have access to very much magical damage that the Cadaver Collector isn't immune to, then they're going to have a really hard time killing this thing, especially with the specters that it can summon. Just make sure that the party that you're throwing this against has good action economy, they know what they're doing, and they have high constitution so that the specters don't just all kill them instantly. Overall, the Collector is a horrifying, unique monster that is sure to make an awesome surprise encounter. Feel free to leave a comment down below on how you plan to use a Cadaver Collector and how your encounter with one went. Thank you so much for watching this episode of How to Run. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below for what legendary Dungeons & Dragons monster you'd like to learn how to run next. Bye-bye.